Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam, Sayyidina Maulana Muhammad, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. I bear witness that there is none worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of all, the master of the day of judgment, the Lord of all the heavens, the Lord of all the skies. And may He subhanahu wa ta'ala shower His peace and blessings upon the last and final messenger, the seal of all the prophets, the mercy to mankind, Muhammad al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. My brothers, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today inshallah, the brothers have given me this title, this talk to do. All eyes on me. All eyes on me. What does this mean? And some of the youth, the youth in the crowd, they will know, who said this, all eyes on me? Where does this come from? And I'm sure, I can see some brothers, smiling already. Yeah? Now they know that all eyes on me was said by Tupac. Yeah? Tupac Shakur, the rapper, the gangster, the thug life who, ruled the hood. Yeah, that mentality, that rude boy who run those ends. And my brother's Tupac Shakur, he was what? He was part of an industry. He was in the part of the rapping industry. And many Muslim youth today, they're familiar with Tupac Shakur. Yeah? In fact, not only are they familiar with him, the Muslim youth, they listen to his tracks. Yeah? They want to dress like Tupac with their trousers down low. They want to have their bling in front of their chest. They want to walk like him. They want to talk like him. And most of all, they want to aspire to be like Tupac Shakur. But what is the reason that they want to be like this person, Tupac? And it's simple. My brothers, the Muslim youth today, they're told that if you follow this thug life mentality, if you carry this thug life, then that makes you a real man. It's about living this gangster life. It's about swearing, cussing, disobeying your parents. Doesn't matter what people say. Doesn't matter what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. Yeah? Forget about these people. If you do these things, then you're a real man. Yeah? Nobody can touch you. All these things, making you're a rebel, go against the status quo. Yeah? So forget going with the flow. I'll do my own thing. People should follow me. People should do what I do. Yeah? So people, they think that, I'm the man. I'm the rude boy on the ends. I run things here. These are my ends. These are my area. Stoke, Birmingham, wherever we might be. Yeah, they have this, the youth have this mentality that, yes, I'm the bad man. I want to be the next big shotter on the roads. And this all eyes on me mentality, that's what it represents. It represents that person who wants to be that bad man, who wants to be untouchable, who wants the world to look at him and say, I want to be like that person. Just like Tony Montana, he says in Scarface, you get the money, you get the power. You get the power, you get the women. That's the life that they want to lead. That's what the youth look up to. And my brothers, this is what they see as what is success. This is what, because everybody wants to be like them, everybody wants to follow them, this is what they see as I'm successful now. And my brothers, we already know the fate of Tupac Shakur. We already know the fate of Tony Scarface Montana. When it came down to the crunch, when it came down to that minute, when he was walking with his, chest held out high, walking with that pride and arrogance, what happened? What was his fate? It didn't matter what he did, or what bling he had, or how many mans he had with him, and how many of his crew, how many people followed him and did what he did. When the angel of death, he came, and when he came, what was his fate? Just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, Kullu nafsin za'ikatul maut. Every soul shall taste death. And even if you're Tupac Shakur, or Tony Montana, or whoever you want to be, just like those people, every single, every other individual on the face of this earth will have that same fate. Kullu nafsin za'ikatul maut. Every soul shall taste death. And there is nothing that these people could do about it. My brothers, is that what we define as success? Is that what we see as success? Is that what the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he had laid down for us and told us that this is what success is? Is this what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has showed to us and said to us, you follow Tupac, you follow Biggie, you want to follow Tony Montana, then you'll be successful? Is that what they have said to us? Or what is success? And how is it that we should view success today? My brothers, just like the Sahaba Ridwan alayhi, the men and women who carry this deen, who sacrificed their life for the sake of this deen, who worked to carry this deen, who carried this message. Not only did they just carry this message, but they sacrificed their time, their efforts and their life for the sake of this deen. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has given them the status. And He has said that these people, they are the ones who are successful. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran in Surah Al-Ahzab, O you who believe, keep the duty to Allah and fear Him, and always speak the truth. He will direct you to do righteous deeds and will forgive you your sins. And whoever obeys Allah and His Messenger has indeed achieved a great achievement. In Surah At-Tawbah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, but the greatest bliss is the good pleasure of Allah. That is the supreme success. And in Surah Ali Imran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, for the Al-Muttaqun, the pious, there are gardens with their Lord underneath which rivers flow. Therein is their eternal home. My brothers, our history is filled with the people who fulfill this criteria that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has laid down for us. Who had fulfilled this criteria that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had showed us. The likes of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. My brothers, let me ask you a question. Do we remember Umar ibn al-Khattab for burying his daughters alive? Yes or no? No, we don't. We remember Umar ibn al-Khattab for what? For being the man he was, for being steadfast in the deen, for carrying the call. When he became Muslim, what did he do? It wasn't enough for him to keep his deen to himself. He went and he knocked the door of the Quraysh. He knocked on the door. He went to Abu Sufyan's house. These are the leaders of Quraysh. He knocked on the door. And what did they do? They saying, Ya Umar. They wanted to give him a hug. And Umar stood there. He goes, what? I've become Muslim now. What are you going to do? He went to Abu Jahil's house. He knocked on the door of Abu Jahil. Ya Umar, how you doing? You're right. Want to give him a hug. What was the reply of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu? I've become a Muslim. What are you going to do about it? That was their response. The likes of Salahuddin Ayyubi, the likes of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimullah, and the list goes on. We can be here all day naming these heroes and these role models that we should be looking up to. But my brothers, today inshallah, I will go through two such heroes of Islam who clearly defined what success should be for me and you, who followed what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. And these weren't men who were 30, 40 years old. No, they were 17 years old, they were 20 years old. Who are these people? The first one is Muhammad bin Qasim. Muhammad bin Qasim is the one who brought Islam to the regions of India. Because of him, my brothers, us, before myself, I'm from Bangladesh, and I know a lot of you brothers, they may be from Pakistan or India, that kind of region, the Indian subcontinent. Because of this, Muhammad bin Qasim, 17-year-old general who brought Islam to these lands, we are Muslim today. Tariq ibn Ziyad will be the second. Who was Tariq ibn Ziyad as well? He was 17 years old, and he had the courage, 17 years old, to bring Islam to Spain, to the doors of Europe. So Muhammad bin Qasim, when did he come? He was born around 694 AD, which is roughly 75 years after Hijrah. He was from the tribe of Banu Taqif, which originated in the city of Taif, which is around Makkah. His father was Qasif bin Yusuf, who died when Muhammad bin Qasim was very young. And his mother was left to look after him. And Muhammad bin Qasim, his uncle was Hajjaj bin Yusuf. A lot of, in the history, Hajjaj bin Yusuf, he is known as a tyrant. But he was very influential in Muhammad bin Qasim's life. Because he was the one who taught Muhammad bin Qasim about, warfare and tactics. He was the one who taught him about these things. And during the, when he was 18 years old, Hajjaj bin Yusuf at the time, he was the governor of Iraq. And when Muhammad bin Qasim, he was 15 years old, Hajjaj bin Yusuf, he appointed him to be the governor of Persia. And what happened was, in Persia, there was a rebellion that was going on. There was a rebellion, people were starting to create fitna amongst the Muslims. And the people, they wanted to disunite the Muslims. So you'll see certain factions amongst the disbelievers who would start to plan certain things. And Muhammad bin Qasim, when he was there, this started to happen. And when he came, brothers, at the age of 15, he dealt with that straight away. And Hajjaj bin Yusuf, he saw this, and he liked him so much that, some narrations say that he wanted him to marry his daughter. Subhanallah, look at that, at the age of 15 years old. What are the youth doing today at the age of 15 years old? They're not, they don't have the mentality of, bringing Islam to the other lands. Their mentality goes as far as Call of Duty, killing people, doing, the best kill shots, and then when they die, they get respawned again. This is the mentality, or this is the mindset that the youth are in. This is the mindset that they're engaged in. So, later on, Muhammad bin Qasim, we know that he had two sons. One of them was known as Umar bin Muhammad, and later he became the governor of Sindh. But what is it that made Muhammad bin Qasim the person that we know today? What happened was, in the region of India, there were some ships that were traveling back from that region. They were coming from Sri Lanka, and they were traveling to the Arab lands. And on this ship, majority of them were Muslim women and children. And this ship, it was taken by the Sindh at that time. His name was Raja Dahir. And this ship was it's like, when you get caravans, people loot them, so they take the ship. And they wanted to take all the belongings and all the treasures that were on the ship. And the women and that, they were held captive. And what happened was, a Muslim woman, she escaped. And she wrote a letter to the Khalif. She wrote a letter saying that, look, this person, they've hijacked our ship, and we have no one to protect us. Our women, my children, and that, they have been taken. Send someone to come and rescue us. So letter got back to Hajjaj bin Yusuf. And Hajjaj bin Yusuf, at that time, the Muslims were fighting many battles at that time. At that time, the Muslims were also fighting battles in North Africa. And this is when, actually, the similar time as Tariq ibn Ziyad as well. So the Muslims, they had a lot of troops sent to other lands, fighting other military expeditions. And Muhammad bin Qasim, being the person he was, he heard of this news. And he went to his uncle, and he said to his uncle, what are you doing? Our Muslim women, they are our honor. Our ship has been taken. What are we going to do? It's our obligation to defend the honor of our Muslims. Yeah, what are we going to do? We need to go and we need to defend them, and we need to protect them, we need to bring them back. And Hajjaj bin Yusuf, he said to Muhammad bin Qasim that, look, what am I supposed to do? We're fighting, we have all our troops in other lands. My hands are tied, I can't really do much. So Muhammad bin Qasim, he goes, let me deal with it. I don't need many men, let me just take the troops that I've got with me and let me deal with this situation. So Hajjaj bin Yusuf, he goes, go on, you deal with it. So Muhammad bin Qasim, he went on this expedition. So he went, and time went by. There's no word of Muhammad bin Qasim. There's no word at all. And Hajjaj bin Yusuf, his uncle, he thought that Muhammad bin Qasim is dead. It's been a long time since I've heard from Muhammad bin Qasim. Because we have to understand that at that time, this is the third time that the Muslims, they actually tried to go towards Hind and take over that land. 2 times before, the Muslims, they actually failed in taking over the lands of Hind, because they underestimated the power of the army of the Raja Dahir. So Hajjaj bin Yusuf, he thought that, that's it. Muhammad bin Qasim, I'm not going to see him again. But what happened? A letter was sent from the Raja himself to Hajjaj bin Yusuf. And what did this letter say? Who have you sent me? Who have you sent me? This lion you have sent me. If he stays here for 1 more week, I'll have no land left. Subhanallah. This lion you have sent me, if he stays here for 1 more week, I'll have no land left. And Hajjaj bin Yusuf, he quickly wrote a delegation back to Muhammad bin Qasim to find out what was going on. And Muhammad bin Qasim, the narrations talk about that Muhammad bin Qasim, when he went and he spoke to the people of the India subcontinent. And a lot of the people, they were Buddhists and they were poor people. and they were, they were being oppressed by this leader, the king at that time. They were being oppressed. So what he did, he went and he gave dawah to them. He started talking to them. How does this king treat you? Does he treat you justly? Does he treat you right? Does he give you your rights? And the people straight away, they said, no, he oppresses us. He doesn't even give us, we can't even provide for ourselves. Just like the situation we're living in today in terms of, people can just about afford to feed their own families in the Muslim lands. So similar to that kind of situation, that the people, they're not first-class citizens, they're not even second-class citizens. They've been treated as third, fourth-class citizens. So straight away the calls start getting strong. And some of the people, the narration say, some of the people, they accepted Islam. But majority of the Buddhists and the poor people, they didn't accept Islam. But what we do know is that they supported Muhammad bin Qasim. And what happened was, because of their support as well, they knew other tribes that controlled other regions in India. And from their discussions with the leaders of the other tribes, Muhammad bin Qasim was able to take those other lands without shedding any blood. So when Muhammad bin Qasim, the first city that he took was Dibal, and other cities such as Nerun and Sadasun, Sewan, they were taken without shedding any blood. But Muhammad bin Qasim was yet to face the Raja at that time and his army, because the Raja at that time, he was preparing his army in another region. So as Muhammad bin Qasim, he gained the support of the Buddhists and the other people in the area. He let them carry on with their everyday lives. He told them, you lot carry on with your businesses, your everyday normal lives. We will deal with the king, and we will bring this land under the authority of Islam, and we will give you your rights. So Muhammad bin Qasim, when he came and he met Dahir and his East Jat forces in Arur, the Raja Dahir, his army was defeated. Some narrations say that the battle lasted for 3 days. The narrations that said that it lasted the longest was 8 days. And we know that the booty, the war booty, was collected and he was sent back to the Khalif. So then, how did Muhammad bin Qasim treat the people of the Hind region? He told them that, listen, none of you lot don't need to accept Islam. If you want to become Muslim, become Muslim. But the authority, the rule that's going to be placed over you will be Islam. And we will give you the status of being a dhimmi. And a dhimmi is a non-Muslim citizen of the state. And we will protect you, we will give you your rights. And we will not treat you like second or third class citizens. And even till today, in those lands that you see in Pakistan, they have a port of Muhammad bin Qasim. Even till today, in parts of India, you see them, they have shrines of Muhammad bin Qasim, worshipping Muhammad bin Qasim. This is the effect that he left. And what happened was, after a few years, his uncle Hajjaj bin Yusuf, he had passed away. And at that time, it was Khalid al-Walid, he was the Khalif at that time. And not long ago, he also passed away. So his brother was next in line. It was Suleiman ibn Abdul Malik, who was the next leader. And Suleiman ibn Abdul Malik, he didn't get on with Hajjaj bin Yusuf. He always seen Hajjaj bin Yusuf as a threat to his throne. And because Muhammad bin Qasim was the nephew of Hajjaj bin Yusuf, he thought Muhammad bin Qasim, he is going to be a threat. So Suleiman ibn Abdul Malik, he wrote a letter to Muhammad bin Qasim, and he told him to come back, bring your troops and come back. And his troops, they knew the fate of Muhammad bin Qasim. They knew that Suleiman ibn Abdul Malik, he did not like Muhammad bin Qasim. And then he knew that if he goes back, then surely he was going to be imprisoned. And his troops, his troops were willing to give up their lives to protect Muhammad bin Qasim. And they said to Muhammad bin Qasim, don't go back, because Suleiman ibn Abdul Malik, he will put you in prison and he will kill you. Let's go, and we will fight and we will protect you, and we will remove this oppressor, we will remove this tyrant. But what was the response of Muhammad bin Qasim? What did he say? He said, no, unity is far more important. Unity is far more important, and I will listen to the leader. I would obey the leader. He has ordered me to go back. This would only create disunity amongst the ummah and create fitna amongst the ummah. Subhanallah, 18, 19 years old, he understood this. He had the opportunity. His troops were willing to go back and take over to remove this leader who was oppressing the people, But what did he say? No, he is the Khalif. And like Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said in the hadith, obey the leader, the Khalif, the Sultan. Whoever obeys the Sultan has obeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whoever disobeys the Sultan has disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he understood this. And he knew the unity of the Muslims was far more important. And what happened? Muhammad bin Qasim, he went back and he was imprisoned. And at the age of 20, my brothers, at the age of 20, Muhammad bin Qasim, he was killed. He died in prison. So that was Muhammad bin Qasim. So now what about Tariq ibn Ziyad? Tariq ibn Ziyad, he was a young man. He was from the Berber tribes. And the Berbers, not long before Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, after the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he passed away, the Berbers were actually, fire worshippers. And they actually fought against the Muslims. So his tribe, his forefathers actually fought against the Muslims. So what happened was, Tariq ibn Ziyad, he was from the tribe of Nadawi. And his father, Tariq ibn Ziyad's father, he passed away when he was young. So what happened was, Musa ibn Nusayr, who was looking after the region of North Africa, he came across Tariq ibn Ziyad as a young boy, and he took him under his wing. And he took him and he looked after him. As years went by, he taught Tariq ibn Ziyad, because he was a general, Musa ibn Nusayr, he was a general. And he taught Tariq ibn Ziyad everything he knew. So what happened was, Tariq ibn Ziyad and Musa ibn Nusayr, they were looking after this region of North Africa. And Musa ibn Nusayr, he understood that the Berbers, they just become Muslim. It's not been long since the Berbers have become Muslim. So what he did was he brought over 1,000 ulama to teach the Berbers about Islam, to teach the Berbers about the Quran and the importance of the Quran. So not only do they learn about Islam, but he also brings the love of Islam into their hearts as well. So Tariq ibn Ziyad, he was amongst the Berbers and Musa ibn Nusayr. And at that time in Spain, there was a leader, his name was King Roderick. And he was also a tyrant. And what King Roderick used to do, he was quite clever. He knew if people were to rebel against him, it would be quite easy to overthrow him. So what he used to do, he used to tell the parents, their children, children, daughters or males they used to have, they used to go and, he used to bring them to his castle. So the education used to take place in his courts. And if any person was to rebel against, King Roderick, he would turn around and he would say to them, think twice before you do anything. I've got your son, I've got your daughter. So that straight away, it stopped anybody going against King Roderick. And what happened was King Roderick, he was being harsh to this one girl. And this girl, she wrote a letter back to her father. His name was Julian. And Julian, he was a Christian. And he heard that the Muslims, have taken over the North African regions and they've been implementing Islam. And he's been hearing from, how people say that the Chinese whispers, that, Islam is been ruling over these regions and the people, they're living in prosperity. They've got loads of, wealth and they're living a good life. So Julian, he went to the king and he goes to the king, this is the biggest mistake that you've made. You should never have touched my daughter. You should never have laid hands on my daughter. I'm going to leave this land. I'm going to go to North Africa and I'm going to call those people to take over these lands, to remove you. And King Roderick, being the person that he was, he looked at him and he laughed. And he goes, go to North Africa and bring me back some hawks. They used to call the Muslims, to belittle them, used to call them hawks, savages. So he goes, bring me back some hawks. And Julian, he goes to him, I'm going to bring you back hawks like you've never seen before. Hawks that are going to take over your throne and implement their way of life. So Julian, what did he do? He went and he met Musa ibn Nusayr. And he goes to Musa ibn Nusayr that King Roderick, he's oppressing the people. He doesn't give us our rights. He doesn't care about the people. We want you lot to rule over, we want you lot to implement Islam and remove this tyrant. So Musa ibn Nusayr, he called Tariq ibn Ziyad. And he goes to Tariq ibn Ziyad, I'm giving you 12,000 troops. Yeah? Go to Spain, take over those lands, bring Islam, bring justice to these lands. And my brothers, I was reading, the narrations regarding this, and the 12,000 army that Musa ibn Nusayr gave to Tariq ibn Ziyad, only 300 of those people were actually Arabs. 300 of those people were Arabs. Subhanallah. These people, these Berbers, over 11,000 of these people were Berbers. They've only just accepted Islam not long ago. And they were willing to sacrifice their life for the sake of this deen. Subhanallah, that's how they understood the message of Islam. It wasn't enough for them to leave Islam upon the four walls, to leave Islam on an individual basis. No, they were willing to carry this deen to the whole of the world. And my brothers, Tariq ibn Ziyad, he went to this place. It's known today as Gibraltar, Jabal Tariq, the mountain of Tariq. And the sea is behind him. And he says to them, he says to his troops, he lights his ships, he burns them all. There's the sea behind us. Just imagine this, picture this in your mind. Behind me is the sea. Those are the ships that we just come on. And Tariq ibn Ziyad, he's ordered them to burn all those ships, burn them. And this is the speech that he gives to his army. And he gives this speech in Arabic. He goes, your possessions are there on the ship. The only thing that you have in your possession, in your hands, is the sword. Is the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In front of you is victory. And for this short struggle, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant you success. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant you success for this short struggle. But behind you, that is Jahannam. We don't want to go there. Let's go towards that success. So Tariq ibn Ziyad, he's given this speech. Yeah? And the Muslims, they're all enraged and they're thinking, yes, let's go. Let's go and take over this land. Let's bring Islam to these regions. So Tariq ibn Ziyad, he went and he met Roderick on the battlefield. Yeah? And the Muslims, they defeated, King Roderick and his troops. And some say that the battle lasted 2 to 8 days. And word got back to Musa ibn Nusayr. And Musa ibn Nusayr goes to Tariq ibn Ziyad, don't go any further. Let me come and we will take over the lands together. But Tariq ibn Ziyad, he understood that, look, if I wait a week or two, if I wait for Musa ibn Nusayr to come, then the troops that are in the other regions, they might get support. They might start regrouping and the army might get stronger, and then we will face a more difficult time. So what did Tariq ibn Ziyad do? He went and he carried on. And he took over the lands. Yeah? And then the Muslims, they implemented the rule of Islam over those lands. And Musa ibn Nusayr, he was quite angry that Tariq ibn Ziyad, he went forward. But that didn't stop them, my brothers. When Musa ibn Nusayr and Tariq ibn Ziyad, when they met, they were willing to put the differences aside for the objective of carrying Islam to the world, the objective of carrying the message of Islam. And they were willing to put the little differences aside. And I want to read a little quote of a Spanish Arabist. His name is J.A. Kundi. And he said, the conditions imposed on the conquered nation were such that the people found conciliation instead of oppression from the conquerors. This gave Spain the status of being a leading nation where kings would send their children to learn in the Islamic Spain in universities of Cordoba. Subhanallah, look at that. That Spain became so prosperous that even the kings from Europe and all the other lands, they would send their children to learn about Islam under the state in Cordoba in the universities. And my brothers, Musa ibn Nusayr and Tariq ibn Ziyad, they had a vision. They had a vision and they wanted to go and they wanted to take over other lands and they wanted to meet in Constantinople. But what happened was, as I mentioned before, that Sulaiman ibn Abdul Malik, yeah, he was the Khalifa at that time. So what he did was, he called Tariq ibn Ziyad back, and he brought him back. and he said to them, Sulaiman ibn, what happened was Al-Walid, his older brother, he was on his deathbed. He was the Khalif now, yeah, he's on his deathbed. And there was a few days left, he knew that he was going to die. So he wrote a letter to Tariq ibn Ziyad and Musa ibn Nusayd, and he goes to them, come back. Look, I am on my deathbed, and I need you to come back. And what happened was, Sulaiman ibn Abdul Malik, his younger brother, he wrote a letter to Musa ibn Nusayd. And he said to Musa ibn Nusayd, don't come yet. Wait 3 days. Let my brother pass away. Let him die. Let him die. And when I become the leader, you come with all the spoils of the war. You come with the war booty. And then people will remember me and say, yes, Sulaiman ibn Abdul Malik and Musa ibn Nusayd, we took over these lands. So what was his goal? So Sulaiman ibn Abdul Malik, he goes to Musa ibn Nusayd, that just wait until my brother comes. And you have to understand the position that Musa ibn Nusayd is in. He knows that Al-Walid, he is going to pass away. And Sulaiman ibn Abdul Malik, he is going to be the next leader. And it would have been easy for him to say, yeah, that's fine, I'll listen to you because he's going to be the next leader. When he comes in power, then it'll be more easy for me. But what did he do? What was his response? Just like Muhammad bin Qasim, he said, no, I'm not here for pride. I'm not here for my own cause. I'm here for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Khalif Al-Walid, he has ordered me to come back. So I will follow his orders. So Musa ibn Nusayd, he went back. And a few days later, Al-Walid passes away. Sulaiman ibn Abdul Malik, he becomes the leader. So what happened was, he imprisons Musa ibn Nusayd and Tariq ibn Ziyad. And then some say that Musa ibn Nusayd, he died on Hajj. And my brothers, Tariq ibn Ziyad, the narrations don't even talk about where he died. It's to the extent that the Muslims don't even know where he actually died. Subhanallah, look at that. He gave his life for the sake of this deen. He gave his, everything, his time and his effort for the sake of this deen. And we don't even know where he passed away. But he was very young when he passed away. So now, what are the lessons that me and you, we can take away from these? These are the true men. These are the real men. When all eyes were on these people, they stood up to the challenge. They didn't waver. They didn't think about their bling or their clothes or what they were wearing or what girls to chase or, Call of Duty, these kind of things. No. What was on their mind? What was on their mind was the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And my brothers, these two young men, they were youth, 17 years old, 20 years old. And we know that today, how are the youth viewed? When the youth, they want to go and they want to talk to people about Islam, sometimes you'll get the elders and you'll say to them, what do you know? What are you talking about? You're only little. You don't know much about Islam. Go back. Come back when you're a bit older. But did that stop Tariq ibn Ziyad and Musa and Muhammad bin Qasim? No. Age was not a barrier for them. It doesn't matter how young they were willing to go out and they were willing to carry the call. And my brothers, these men, they showed bravery. They stood for Islam. And they paid the ultimate sacrifice. The ultimate sacrifice of, giving their life for the sake of this deen. My brothers, us here today, living in the West, we do not need to face that same sacrifice that they faced. In the Muslim lands, yes, our brothers and sisters, they may be going through that same struggle. They may be going through a physical struggle in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Palestine. But we here in the West, our struggle is different. Our struggle is the battle of the hearts and the minds. What is this battle of the hearts and minds? It's here in the West, where they say to us, you turn on the TV and they say, Islam is barbaric. Islam is backwards. Islam, we need to change. We need a modern version of Islam. We need a British version of Islam. Homosexuality, this is wrong. We shouldn't, Muslims, you should accept homosexuality. This is what they say. This is what they say to us, that Islam, it needs to be changed. So my brothers, are we going to stand up? Are we going to rise to the challenge to defend the honor of Islam, to defend the honor of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam when they attack us and they say, we're barbaric? Are we going to stand there and let it happen? Or are we going to stand are we going to stand there and be at the forefront of the da'wah? When all eyes are on us, All eyes are on us now. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is watching us now, here and now. There is no ifs and buts about it. Yeah, this is our time. This is the time for us to rise up to the challenge. So when they say to us that your women are oppressed, you oppress your women, Islam is backwards, you oppress your women, let's say, hold on. Let's not shy away from this issue. Let's be on the forefront of this dawah. Let's say, we're barbaric. Okay, let's have a look at how you lot treat your women. Why is it that every 2 minutes in the West, a woman gets raped? Every 60 seconds in America, a woman gets raped. And you telling me our women are oppressed? My brothers, I used to work in a garage. And wallahi, yeah, they used to, you get Euro car parts and all these other car companies that would send their magazines of their special offers. And wallahi, every single page, they had a half-naked woman on there in a bikini and whatever she was wearing, half-naked women. You're selling bloody brake discs. You're selling water pumps. Why is there need of putting a half-naked woman on that? Yeah, everything, links advert, what do they show? You put the links on and you'll get the girls, the links effect. And you say, we oppress our women? So let's take the battle to them and let's show to them how their way of life is false. And let's show to them how Islam is the solution to their problems. And my brothers, I want to finish with one last ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, give us the motivation. Yeah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, among the believers are men who have been true to the covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some of them have died and some still wait, but their determination never changed in the least. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Anything good I said is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any mistakes are from myself and shaitan.
Thanks, Alika. Brothers, sorry for